And I think we are going live. Or
Yay.
are we?
Or are we?
That's the big question. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, Bryce.
How are you today?
I'm awake. I am up. I am out of bed.
At such an hour. My goodness. What are we even doing? Normally, we are both night owls and we are hosting this usually on Monday nights, well, once every quarter or so. It
hmm
is not Monday night. It is not every quarter. It is Saturday morning. What is happening? My
I
brain
know.
is.
Well, I just wanted this time at least, or at least every other time or something, to do it when there are listeners who can be on, especially patrons, certain patrons, whether they be on the other side of the world or whether they just Monday night's not a good night for them. There's been a few with that problem as well. So it's like, oh, let's trade off time so that we can gather more of our Patreon patrons in because,
Mhm.
they're the ones that keep our lights on.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Which we should remind anyone who is watching right now, if you are a patron over at patreon.com/glassboxpod, it is because of you reaching a certain goal that allowed us to do this. And if you happen to be a patron and you want to join us, you should have a link in your email for whatever email address you use to sign up through Patreon. That should show you where the link is to join this Zoom Hangout / live stream if you would like to. So, with that out of the way, I'm going to keep my eyes over on all of the tech side of this. And Shannon, we do have some questions from our previous Q's and A's that we have not been because we bloviate on and on and on and on, and we never answer all of our questions. So we do still have a bank of saved up questions. So do we want to start those while we allow patrons to kind of trickle in?
Yeah, we could take a look at those. One question was last time. This came from Jen, and as a nevermost secular, science-minded person in Morador, which is the Mormon corridor right here in Utah, folks, I
Mhm.
find Mormon theological concepts bizarre. And yes, we agree they are bizarre.
Yeah.
Then, well, most any theology generally bizarre, but I digress. So regarding multiple probations, please explain. Is this a sort of Mormon reincarnation slash karma? So yeah, that gets interesting. Because you also have the problem of Mormons changing meanings of words. So first part of that question is the premortal existence a separate deal? No, it is not. It's all just one endless thing here with Mormonism. So you start with premortal existence, which is God took intelligences that were just, I guess, floating around in space
Mhm.
and made spirit bodies for them. And so everybody became a spirit, which, according to Mormons, your spirit looks like yourself at your prime. So all of your spirits look different. So I guess really that technically speaking, you can say that means there's all sorts of colors of people in the pre-earth life, pre-mortal existence, but according to Mormons, they're all white. So
Yeah.
then the next state you come to is you pass through the veil and forget everything that happened before because you already know everything and you come to earth and you get a physical body. At the end of however long a life you have, you leave your physical body, your spirit goes up to either spirit prison or to spirit paradise kind of thing. Um, and it's two sides. So if you've already accepted the gospel and you're a Mormon, you go to the nice side. If you didn't accept the gospel or didn't get a chance to, or whatever the hell, you go to spirit prison, and then people from the other side come and do missionary work to get you to join. And then you need a physical body for all of the ordinances. So your down here on earth is when Mormons go to the temple and in your place for proxy, so that if you decide to accept all of that, yada yada yada. Okay, so then you get the resurrection, and then it's okay, where do we get to go? And you got the three kingdoms of glory or outer darkness, which has no glory because there's no light in outer darkness and all that shit. So basically that's the probation thing, and it's just more like each state but it's all one endless kind of line. It's not separate deals. So with that said, sorry. I shouldn't act like that. Hi, all of you. Iris, Arg, I see Aurora, I see Julie, I see all of you. Okay. Anyway,
Hi,
so
everybody.
that's the main thing there when it comes to Mormons and pre-Earth to post-Earth life. Where these topics front in mind when you're a Mormon or just kind of background noise? Front in mind. Everything has to do with where you're going to go next. There's this terror of going to outer darkness because worse people than Hitler are in outer darkness. So, there's that absolute terror of being told you have to go there. So no, it's not background noise with Mormonism. They said these seem like potentially dangerous concepts. Yes, they are. Because as we, things like when we covered Millennial Messiah back in 2022, that really shows the whole concept of Mormonism, of the next life, of really of the millennium itself, and just how much Mormonism looks forward to the destruction of everybody who doesn't agree with them. So yes, it is very dangerous. So where do the recent Daybell murders ideas fit to justify their horrific acts? Oh, it all
Mm.
goes in with, like, say, Nephi in the Book of Mormon, when God told him to go and kill the drunk passed out on the ground so badly that you could shoot a firework next to his head and you wouldn't wake him up. Laban, go cut off his head so you can go steal his shit. Yeah, that it fits perfectly because that's Mormonism, just like the Laffertys, just like all of these people. So yeah, it fits. It just absolutely fits.
Well, I mean, now we do have a full, a panel here who have showed up, and I mean, I know you are. I know I did not follow the Daybell stuff like basically at all, or I am currently not following it basically at all. I don't know how familiar you are with it, Shannon, but does anyone else on the panel want to chime in about the Daybells and about how that kind of fits within, Mormonism creating dangerous men and people in general? And the just kind of the fucked up theologies of what created that.
Yeah, what I can see is Dad was kind of seen like as a prophet. He kind of had that position. So that's where he fits in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because once the prophet has
Yeah.
connection with deity, and suddenly that deity can say, "Oh, that whole thou shalt not kill." Nah, that's
Yeah.
more like guidelines.
Yeah, he would give like revelations and all
Oh,
that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
I
So
don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt.
it's okay. The Daybell murders.
Yeah,
That
I don't know. I don't keep up with things, I guess.
I know all of that was happening during all of my pleural effusions. So my sister, who would take me to them, she was actually following it, and I was just like, I don't give a shit. I'm just trying to breathe. So I didn't follow any of it, even though I should have, because I mean, this would have been interesting.
well, she
And
was found guilty
yeah,
recently, so that's good.
yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
And that's not
Well,
always easy to do in the Mormon corridor, especially things like, well, when V was on talking about the Jody Ruby thing, um, same kind of thing. I wasn't quite sure what would happen with that because this is Mormonism, and the Mormon church runs, I mean, Utah's a theocracy. And so it's like what we've seen just recently with the whole transgender thing in the state legislature is, there's some people that have said if the Mormon church would just stand up and make a one sentence statement. And I said, they already have behind the scenes to the people in charge saying, you will not allow this. That's what's already happened. I can guarantee it. So anything they don't want done in the laws of Utah will not happen. If they want it done, it will happen. There's people who've been in the state legislature who've talked about these behind the scenes meetings with, the
Mhm.
Mormon, the Strengthening Church Members Committee. Yeah, SCMC. I'm just got up at like an hour ago, so I promise my brain is working. It just is like kind of like behind, like 5 seconds behind.
Yeah, this is unusually early for you.
It is,
yeah.
but I did it because I wanted CV.
Which
Ivy.
hi, Ivy.
Yes. And so, but anyway, yeah, there's other people that I was so wanting to be able to come. So I was just like, we need to do it when they can come. When can you come? So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and to your comment, Irisark, I think let's just read Will M's comment in the YouTube. He says, in a nutshell, there was this author, Chad Daybell, who started LARPing as a prophet and making up his own theology to the point where he figured out a way to justify banging other women and murder. Yeah,
So Joseph Smith.
pretty well summarizes the situation.
Desert Red Book stopped selling his books, so like he
Yeah.
made his own publishing company because they were too racy for Deseret Book. So,
Has
yes.
has Deseret Books stopped selling Tim Ballard's stuff? Doesn't he have a book?
Oh,
Does
He
anybody know?
has these like fantasy history books,
yeah,
basically the hypothesis books.
he pretends to be like a historian of U.S. history. Like
Yeah.
the U.S. is the greatest country and
Oh
all that
gosh.
mythology. Like the founding fathers were the best, that
Uh-huh.
kind of thing.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Deseret stopped selling his
I don't
books.
know.
I can't I seem to recall that headline coming up in the the mix of all of the shit that happened with Tim Ballard. But maybe I'm mistaken. Or are you just unmuted? Do you want to check
Yeah, like I think I remember reading that too. Although I don't really, just because Deseret Books stopped selling something, I think just shows the Mormon Church doesn't like it because they stopped selling like Kingdom of Nauvoo by Benjamin Park, and which is a really good book. But yeah, so I'm like, okay, they don't like it. Not shocking. They want to distance themselves, but I don't really care.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, but
Aurora, you did ask on Patreon about Benjamin Park's new book, American Zion. Tell us about it.
So, like Benjamin Park's book, Kingdom of Nauvoo, is one of the first like Mormon history books I read after leaving. My uncle recommended it, and it was really good. I think he's a really good writer as well. And like it helped me. It obviously is focusing purely on Nauvoo history, that book, and it helped me see like I'm like, oh yeah, I can see why everyone wanted Joseph Smith dead. Like this guy was a menace. And then his new book, it's more about Mormon culture, I would say, his new book. But there's some history. Yeah, that's the book. Julianne has it. I got it from the library. I'm reading it right now, and it's so far really good. I think it's so far engaging. I'm right now in the like first chapter, so I have not gotten far. I've read like I thought it was funny when he's like, "Here's why I'm using the word Mormon," despite that the LDS Church doesn't like it.
There we go.
It was kind of
Excellent.
fun.
mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Okay, that sounds like something.
Yeah.
Put
So
on the
I have
to
not
be
started
read
reading.
list.
I want to read American Zion so bad. I love Benjamin Park's work. All of his articles I've read. I've perused Kingdom of Nauvoo. I haven't read it cover to cover, but he's very excellent writer. So I want to read this American Zion because my understanding too is that like it kind of goes into like illustrating the mentality of like Mormon Trumpism as well, right? Like this ultra conservative Mormon contingent that kind of maybe even makes up a majority of the church right now.
Yeah, I think so. From when it sounds like I follow him on TikTok, so some of his videos he'll talk about what his book was. And it sounds like that. He definitely is going to talk about like the politics or this movement leads this or why did the church change this policy, right? Like so that's why I'm really interested because I think it's gonna really show about why the church is what it is today. So I'm excited.
Excellent.
Yep. Now I got to write that down. Add it to my list. It's like number 27 down the list. Oh God.
I did the benchmark and got it signed.
Excellent.
Yeah, you went to the event, right? The author event. That right there is one of the primary reasons I want to live in Utah is because of the benchmark author events. I see those posted up all the time. I'm like, I wish I could go. Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun.
Mm-hmm.
That brings back fond memories when I worked at BYU Bookstore in the general book department. I spent 3 years there, and when they hired me, because I was a student, and this was my last 3 years at BYU, but when they hired me on, they already knew about what I was like with reading because I'd been the custodian there. And so I was just, what they would do is they would have students assigned to certain sections of the books. And it usually changed every semester, because they didn't want you to get bored. But science fiction fantasy was mine the entire fucking time I worked there. And in fact, the last year of it that I was there, the book buyer in charge of that section would let me meet with him and the book reps and say how many of each book and which author I wanted and all that shit. Because he's like, she knows more than I do about any of it. So anyway, that was one of the things I loved, is when we had authors coming in and to do book signings and stuff. There was a symposium. It used to be held at BYU, but then the kids in charge of it, the students in charge of it, were trying to be a little more edgy. And so the board of trustees of BYU, which means, the Q15, kicked it off of campus and wouldn't let it be a BYU thing anymore. So now it's elsewhere and it's not as big. But they would do this symposium every February and bring in 5 or 6 different science fiction fantasy authors. And I would always end up getting to meet every one of them because they would come in to see if I wanted them to sign the books they had that were there for them to sell and all this shit. And it was so fun. That's when I got to interview Roger Zelazny, the author, who is an old favorite of mine. He died about a year later. After that, he had one type of cancer. I'm trying to remember, something like stomach cancer or something. But I got to interview him. I got to take him to lunch, all these things. And it was just such a delightful thing. So now, I get it, Bryce. I get why you're jealous of that, being able to come and to talk to the authors, because it's so fun doing
Mm.
that. That is something I actually miss about working at a bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not putting you on the spot here, Dee, but I saw that you kind of reacted a bit when the name Rogers Lasney came up and stuff. Yeah, so if you want to chime in on that, please do. Please unmute and do.
I just, yeah, I just read the entire Amber series all without
Yes.
stopping. Yeah. My husband had, oh, that Zelazny
Zelazny.
is his favorite author. And he had this book that was the whole thing all at once. And so I just kept reading, and then I discussed it with him. He said, "Oh yeah," and da 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 da, and give me the story. I said, "No spoilers, no spoilers." And that was quite a thing with that, because it was his favorite author. He'd read the thing like 3
Mhm.
times, which is saying something, because he didn't read all that much.
Right.
So yeah,
He
yeah,
was so fascinating. One thing he did that it would throw me off, so I wouldn't be able to read quite as fast because I had to really pay attention, is he wouldn't do he said, she said much. He would start it, and then you'd go like 7 pages of a dialogue, and you'd have to really pay attention to remember who was talking.
yeah.
Threw me off. But one of my favorites was his Doorways in the Sand, which he was doing as kind of just a trying a personal exercise, I guess you could say. So one, it's about a perpetual student who has come within like 3 classes of getting about 27 different degrees. And it's because he would get a certain amount of money from a trust fund every year as long as he was a student. So he just stayed as a student for like 30 fucking years, one of those students that universities hate because they can't get rid of him. But also, the thing he was doing was he ended every single chapter on a cliffhanger. And then the next chapter would start after the cliffhanger was resolved. And so then he'd have to kind of say, "Oh, then well, was, this was done," and then he'd move on. And it was so funny, and talking to him about it was fun. But yeah, the Amber series, those are delightful. Um, they've tried filming them, and last I heard, Stephen Colbert has jumped in because that's like his second favorite series after Tolkien. And so he's jumped in as a producer. And I think it would be really cool if they could do it now, because that series of books would work well in filmed in with CGI and everything, because of the way they do things, because of the pattern walking and the worlds
Yeah.
thing.
It
Which
started out really normal for a
yes,
sci-fi, and then got really weird
super
just toward
weird.
the end. It was
Yeah.
very, I don't know, just weird. It was really
Hmm.
weird.
He had
Hard to
such a
say. I mean, you
quirky
would need
brain.
CGI for all that. Mhm.
Yes. Just pattern walking you need it for, the world walking.
Oh yeah.
And, well, did your husband tell you how Zelazny came up with all that?
No, no.
Well, Zelazny told me, and he said, but he told a lot of people this, but this was one of the favorite topics in interviews. But he said he was in some city. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was like New Orleans or something. And what he found just walking is that he kept ending up in areas that were like a completely different country. Just, 10 steps, he'd turn a corner in a different country, in a different country, in a different country. And so he was like, oh, this would be an interesting story device. So that's what he does in every one of the books. It's like the Audible books, because it's two sets of five, really, the Corwin series and the Merlin
Yeah.
series.
Yeah.
The Merlin series is read by Will Wheaton, who was Wesley Crusher on Star Trek.
Yeah.
And he is
Yeah.
a fantastic narrator.
Yeah. I don't read much anymore because it gives me a headache. So I listen to books constantly. Yeah, I listen a lot more than I used to actually read. So yeah, I've read or listened to several books that
Yes.
he's narrated. Yeah,
He
he
really is
does
fantastic at it.
John Scalzi.
Mm-hmm.
I really
Yeah.
like. There's several others that he does the whole series.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's delightful. Yeah, he was fun to interview. He really was. And
Yeah.
it made my day because it was beginning of me learning how to interview people. And so I was really practicing on him, which was lucky because he knew how to be interviewed. And he just loved to talk. But what I loved is there was one question I had in this hour and a half interview that he told me had never been asked. And I'm like, yay, okay, I got one. I mean, you want to hear that about all the questions, but I had one question, which was, why are there no children in Amber? And so that was kind of cool. That made me feel good. And his reason
That's a
why
really
is
good
because
question. How did he
the
answer that?
pattern. He said
Sorry.
the pattern was like a type of birth control on the family, the royalty of Amber, and so it just kept women from ovulating, men from having viable sperm.
Then how did they get? Never mind. That
So you got into other worlds. When you moved into other worlds, they could, because
I
the
see.
further they're away from the pattern, the more viable their
Okay. When I got
they're more
absorbed into
fertile
that
they
world.
were. Yeah. So that
Okay.
is why every one of their children is born elsewhere. So
I
see,
see.
now everybody's going to be like, and now I got to go read that book. Yes, you do.
They are really great. They really are great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're the best thing. Well, I honestly, I think Night in the Lonesome October is his best, but that's my favorite, my hands down favorite of his.
Mhm.
I read it every October. And it's about when the full moon lands on Halloween, which means that a door between the worlds is opened and you get openers and closers there to either open or close that door. And the story is told from the viewpoint of Jack the Ripper's dog. And it is definitely not a children's book. So, yeah, excellent book. It was newly out when I interviewed him, and so that was also really fun to talk about. Yeah. Anyway, yes. Okay. Onwards. Questions. Let's see. Let me go back to that.
Now, so I apologize for being completely disconnected from what was going on just now, but I've been trying to track this down because someone commented in the YouTube. There's a rumor on Reddit that you and David Fitzgerald are feuding, something about the Myth Vision podcast. And of course, I asked what corner of Reddit, and they said ex-Mormon subreddit. Are the rumors true? Evidently, some serious heat between you two. So this is a case where I need to see the post because I need to know what people know, so that I don't reveal anymore. So I'm unable to find the post specifically the person is referring to, unfortunately. But I'm really curious. And I guess I will respond right now. Possibly, I don't know. Is there a feud between me and Fitz? I don't know. uh,
Oh,
but yes. So, other questions.
we need to talk about candles.
Oh yeah. Glad my
So
attention is back on the show now.
he's like, oh God,
For this.
Shannon,
Yeah, great,
why
great,
didn't you
great.
talk about that before while I wasn't paying attention? No. So, folks, we, had this candle thing going, the candle war. Whose candle was best? Mine, which I told you all the time. It was mine. And so we let
Muted.
patrons on Patreon decide what embarrassing, difficult, whatever thing Bryce had to do because his candle lost. We held a poll this past week. And there were several things on there that were fun. One that made me laugh that actually had no votes was have an extremely low word count for Bryce for an episode, but not Shannon.
No
And we're like,
votes on that.
yeah, our patrons follow us for
I
a
almost
reason.
voted for that one, but it was my second favorite.
It's like, I want to see Bryce have to do 657 words only. And then
Very specifically.
I know. But some others were like wear a goofy dragon costume for the next live show, watch a car movie with Shannon and not talk about the cars at all.
That was
That's
me.
torture.
That's the one I
absolute
wanted.
You
torture.
chose it. I knew you'd be tortured.
Yes.
I know.
You're a monster.
Yeah, there was write a love poem about a car he hates.
That was mine too.
Yep. Do a segment on the church's relationship with dragons, which I'm like, we should still do that. Post a picture of Bryce wearing a shirt that says Shannon's candle is best, must be worn during a podcast as well. But the one that won, and I'm looking forward to this, can only use Mormon swear words throughout an entire episode. And when he slips, have to re-record from the beginning and share a blooper reel at the end. But me, and this is from Jen, I am allowed to say whatever the fuck I want.
Julie, I see you're trying to
So-
talk. Julie, you're muted. I want to hear it.
Sorry.
There we
I
go.
think there should be a caveat. It has to be an episode where you would want to swear.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. That's most episodes, right? Like, most of the times we're covering some fucked up stuff, right? So,
Yeah,
some
that's true.
fricked up stuff.
like for the Saints, or
Yeah.
like talking about Boyd K. Packer or something.
Right.
Oh,
Oh God, I got it. Oh.
Should it be the next Approaching Zion episode?
Probably.
I
mean,
don't
the
know.
one we're doing for this week is not one to do it with. And
No,
that's
it's
why I was like,
not.
no, it can't be for this one.
No. It does not work with this week's episode. I think we probably should do it on the next one because that will be, I mean, it's Approaching Zion. It's like for diving into the first full episode of the Nibsters, right? So
Yep.
I feel like I'm gonna really wanna cuss a little bit.
I think you will. I'm
Ooh,
thinking
yes.
I need to look at the so
We get to
first few
see the
chapters
fabled
are
creature.
Our glory or our condemnation. What is Zion? A distant view. That's the first 62 pages.
Ooh.
No, sorry. Zeal without knowledge. That's okay. A topic like zeal without knowledge, which is like most of Mormons. Yeah, that's 62 pages there. Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know,
think
we'll see.
that's probably when we got to do it.
That's the one.
Yeah, well, and I mean, we happen to have, I know at least some people on the panel are post-Mormons, former Mormons, cultural Mormons like myself. Do you have favorite Mormon swear words that you might like to hear? We are taking recommendations. I have a document pulled up for it's my Mormon swears document. So if any swears come to mind that are favorites, please do chime in. Please do let me know. I will be collating them so I have something I can go back to.
What's one of those that I used to say? I'm trying to think. What was one I used to say?
This
I mean,
isn't like a Mormon swear word, but like some of my friends growing up would say snickerdoodles.
Snickerdoodles. Yeah.
I had some friends that were trying to create one, but it never worked. They were the only two that ever said it, but they would say, "Oh, my Atlantic Ocean." I'm like, it doesn't work. Oh, that's because I mean, you got dang, you got fetch, you've got oh my heck, But I'm like, all the ones, I mean, fudge, that's one. Fudge. You have
Fudge
to
was
say.
usually my go-to.
And you got to
Fudge or
do it like the
frick.
missionaries in my mission would. They would go, fudge. My mission president finally just banned the whole word. He's like, nothing that starts FU. Because the
Yeah,
missionaries.
we used to just say H for hell. So it'd be like, what the H?
What
HE
the
double
H?
double hockey
Yeah.
sticks. Yep.
What the H? Yep.
I'm never Mormon, but I've heard often instead of saying shit is well, shut the front door. That always first I thought that was funny and now it's gotten old, but
That was
that's
good.
one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I actually got in trouble for saying dang. I wasn't even allowed to say that.
Wow.
Piss and fart were actual swear words in my household. I mean, they had lost their emotional impact, because that's really what determines what's a swear word, is the emotional impact it has on a society. And so at that point they were segueing out of being swear words, and there were others that were segueing in. And so, which is absolutely fascinating. It was one of my favorite papers I ever wrote at BYU, was the history of swearing, because then I could use all the swear words in it and get away with it. But side note, anyway, but yeah, those were ones. But yeah, those aren't ones that Mormons use as much. But yeah, fudge, definitely. HE doubles hockey sticks. And there was oh my heck. Oh my heck is one that just sounds so incredibly stupid.
Will M comments, and Julie, you actually sent the video to me. There's a song from Sons of Provo called "Dang Fetch Oh My Heck," and it's full of gems that Mormon swears. And then
Yep.
also comments, "God dandruff and some of it itches." Beautiful.
I knew
I thought you
people
like
saying shit, they would say shiz, who is a name from the Book of Mormon. So
Right. Right. Yeah, there's for a while, well, some, because I mean, teenagers in Utah are gonna try to push the envelope as much as they possibly can. And so there were some when I was a teenager that they would say "gah" and not finish it. And so, but yeah, V says in the chat on Zoom, said, "Gosh darn it all to heck," which is yes,
Yep,
definitely one. Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
And so, and God damn it is something you will say often. I remember on podcasts. So, gosh
Oh yeah.
darn it all to heck, you have
Gosh
to
darn it
do.
all the heck. Yeah, I mean, that was always my go-to, and stubbing a toe or whatever, right? Uh, oh, these repressive tendencies. It's like, if you want to swear, just get it out instead of repressing it.
and steady show if you stub your toe and say like fuck or whatever, it helps you feel better.
Yeah,
Yes, it always
exactly.
does.
Yes.
Yeah.
I grew up being told that those who swear have a low vocabulary, and that is absolutely not true. It's
Right.
like saying, it's like the saying that puns are the lowest form of humor. I mean, it takes actually a rather high level of intelligence to create a pun. And same, and swearing, there's a reason why we swear, and it does have an emotional impact for you, and so it's an emotional release. Yeah. Yeah, there's in Australia, there's Aboriginal tribes that for them, the words that have the highest impact are the names of people who've died, because they believe it keeps them from moving to the next life. And so they don't say the name once the person's died, and that's to them is a swear word because of that emotional impact. Just so you know. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I love to talk about that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Random
And we love
facts
to
about
swear.
whatever.
Yep. Fiddlesticks, yes, fiddlesticks. That was one my dad always used to say, fiddlesticks.
Oh,
That
I
was
don't
his
know
go-to.
why, V, but you are muted still. Huh. Anyway, okay.
Oh, whoops. I did not mean to send that message to only D. I meant to send that to everybody. I was saying I cannot hear you. Sorry, friend from Serbia. And my apologies, D. I need to
That's
pay
what
attention
happened
to
to
what I'm
me.
doing.
It's like, what?
Well, she's
Uh,
muted.
All right, Bryce. Mark wants to know in the chat. Great to see you live, Bryce. When is your book going on the market? And my question is, when are you writing your book?
Yeah. So the writing progress is very slow on it. V, I see you trying to talk as well, and it still is not coming through. We're still not hearing you. The book is not going to market anytime in the reasonable future because it is not prepared for, it is far away from going to market. My writing endeavors have been focused on getting an article out right now as well. So that is in the beta reading phase, which reminds me, Shannon, I need to send that to you. We just
Yes,
finished
you
our
do.
last meeting on Thursday and said it is ready to send out to beta readers. So, yep, progress is slow. Progress is happening.
I love being a beta reader.
Yeah.
There's a Jaff author that I'm beta reading a book on right now. She's like, I need to remove about 10% of it. I was like, cool. This is the kind of beta reading I love to do.
Yeah. All right.
So let's
V,
see.
do you want to try talking again and see if it's working now? Nope, doesn't seem to be working. That's frustrating. Oh no. Oh no.
So rude. I love to hear
Of
your voice
course.
because I love your accent. I mean, I don't know if I'm a. Is that okay to say anymore?
I
Is
think
it?
that's okay. I think it's okay to say you like somebody's accent.
I love accents.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at them. The only one I can do is Southern. And so it's like, and only a certain form of Southern.
There
That's
it
the
is.
only one I
Yep.
can do.
Yep.
Anything else is like, I can get a word out right. But it's like, if you want me to speak in an accent, you got to spell it out phonetically for me to even get it. Yeah. I just love to
Cot, did you
hear
want to?
them.
Do you want to chime in there?
No, not sure, but I see that V is muted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, Cot. I'm so happy
Hi,
you're
hi.
here. Very happy you're here. And I love your voice. That's one thing I love about the videos you sent me to help me get through my year last year.
Oh, this I know. Oh, okay. I did not make
Uh-huh.
the connection of who Cot is. I understand who Cot is. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Very cool. Yes.
Oh,
Awesome.
Will
Welcome.
likes my Joseph Smith accent. I was like, yeah, because it's a whiny brat.
Yeah.
And I think I made Aaron almost fall off his chair last Sunday when I did God's voice, God and Jesus's voice in 3rd Nephi 11. That was fun because I gave Joseph's voice to God and I made Jesus a whiny brat. So I will say that was the one I was looking forward to, was reading 3rd Nephi 11. And so that was fun. In fact, in the green room before, I was like, I get 11. I get chapter 11. I don't care who gets whatever else. I get 11. So,
Oh, what a great time. Oh, what a great fun reading the Book of Mormon again. Yay.
oh my God, I know.
I cannot fucking wait for that project to be over. I
Oh,
hate the
God.
Book of Mormon so much. Don't get me wrong, it's fun, but like, oh my God, it is so much of a grind to go through the Book of Mormon again and
Yes.
again.
What's hard for me on all of this is that I hadn't realized just how much of the Mormon trauma I had from just that book. And that's frustrating because every week when we open it, I'm just like, oh God, what's going to hit me this time? What's going to hit me this time? You know, how many times this book was weaponized against me, or how many times I weaponized it against somebody else? Because, you know, ultimately, the Book of Mormon is not a very good missionary tool. It just isn't. And missionaries don't tell people to read the whole book. They kind of do, but they get really terrified when somebody does, because then they bring up questions they have no idea how to answer. And, you know, they tell the investigators to read 3rd Nephi 11 when Jesus comes, and then Moroni 10:4 and pray about it to see if all this was true or not, you know, and that kind of thing. Well, where it gets used is telling people how to live, and Mormons how to live, and using it as a weapon against them. And so it has been, I mean, especially with this past year with all the health issues and all that shit going on, it's been actually fairly traumatic for me. every time I've been on Iron Show doing it because of those very reasons. And so I look forward to being done and
Oh,
never
yeah.
opening the goddamn thing again. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we got more people on. Happy to see you. You won't show up unless
Yes,
you speak, but yeah, on the thing. But okay.
absolutely. Another person with a cold. Seems there are a lot of those going around. In fact, we are on lockdown at this house because we just had a COVID exposure last week. So, yay. Good
Good
stuff.
times.
Fun.
Mm,
Yay. It's all good. Um, yeah.
yes. Yes.
All right. Is it
Ugh.
working maybe now, V?
Nope. Damn it.
No, still not working. Man.
I'm
Gosh darn it
so
all the heck.
bugged.
Uh, I mean, like we wanted to do this morning thing just so we could have, broader accessibility for it. And one of the people specifically we were targeting for that accessibility, of course, is having tech difficulties and can't chime in on the panel now. Why does this have to happen? Why can it never just be smooth and easy and simple and just work like it's supposed to work?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. There
it's
is a
frustrating.
question that was asked. It was actually a few live shows up ago, but I never got to it. Came from RG. You have told us about your special experience a decade ago. Toddler euphemisms are such fun in our Exmo culture, but congratulations to you on 10 years being cancer free. So, yes, anyway, that was my bout with cancer, which is also causing issues now. Was that episode in your life a catalyst to explore your Mormon foundations more deeply than before? Or had you already long since crossed such lines? And yes, it was the catalyst. And I'll tell you why. It's because when you're going through cancer, because they kill off everything every time you have chemo, and then it has to build itself up again, which means your immune system as well. So you're supposed to avoid sick people. And what do people do when they go to church? They come sick, especially with sick children, because, free babysitting. So I just didn't go to church very often. There was a few times like, Christmas program I would go or whatever the hell. But I didn't go to church. So the brainwashing was not being kept consistent. And my chemotherapy lasted for 6 months. And then I had about 2 months off because they had to do a surgery before they could do radiation on me. And then the radiation was like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And so with all of that, it was nearly, that's like 9, 10 months, maybe even a year before I felt like I had a strong enough immune system to go to church. And at that point, I'm like, this is all awful. And every single question I'd ever had that was stuck in my Pandora's closet, because it was much bigger than a shelf. It was, a shelves in the closet. There was a shelves, not just one. I don't know who caught the reference. Um, but all of those questions started clamoring in my head. And then at that point, when you're being hit with every question you've had since you were 10 years old and you're 44, 45, at that point, it's like, yeah, how can you ignore it? And I couldn't ignore it at that point. So I would make excuses not to go to church. Um, and they were real excuses because I wasn't feeling well most of the time. And but I would go to a sacrament meeting or something, but I didn't stay for the other meetings and all that shit. And so yeah, it was easy. Very easy to leave after that. That was the thing that did it, is not being able to be there, so I didn't get the brainwashing. And that's one of the things not many recognize. Well, very few recognize when you're in the middle of it, but when you pull back and you have to say, yes, there's brainwashing there, and I fell for it. And that's difficult because you tend to think that there's the societal thing that it's only stupid people that can be brainwashed, and that's so not true.
Yeah.
I'm just sorry.
No, you're okay. Go
Wondering
ahead.
how many during COVID were the churches that didn't do the stupid thing of making people come anyway. Wonder how many people just dropped out of church. it's got to be just a massive
many.
number of people that just decide not to go back. This is stupid. I don't need this. My life is better without it.
Yep.
Mhm.
So easy. You know,
Yeah,
and they
my
were
anecdote on
televising them. Oh,
my
sorry, go.
anecdote on this topic is I was walking my mother back from church a few days ago because weather was bad and stuff, and I was already on a walk there. And guess how many people are in a village church in Poland on the weekday mass?
2.
4.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
And when I
Wow.
was a kid, the church was always at least half full.
Wow.
So it's 25 years difference. And basically, Catholicism in Poland is in full retreat.
Wow.
When you
Is-
say half full, is that double digits
That's
or is that
a
triple digits of people?
that's about 200 people or more.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we
Wow.
have an old church that fits 250 comfortably. And it was all and you can fit more people if there are standing spots reserved. And I remember from my childhood that a lot of the bigger holidays, we had it packed to the point where people were outside and just listening to the mass. And that was about 600 people.
Is that the predominant religion in
Yeah,
Poland?
Catholicism.
Okay.
It's basically, they say it's 98%, but that's their number.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
you're a Catholic if you were ever baptized,
Yeah.
and almost everyone was.
Wow.
Not so much
and,
now.
and you're seeing just in the span of 25 years, basically a 1% retention rate.
Wow.
Wasn't as bad before COVID. COVID
Okay, yeah.
taught people that they don't have to go there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, most of the more fundamentalist people left because our local church had luck with priests. They were never very fundy. And the Catholic fascists are basically doing their own thing with Latin Mass and stuff.
Mm.
So they don't come.
Whew,
Did you?
that's
I'm sorry.
fascinating.
Catholic fascists? Did I hear
Yeah.
that? What is?
Yes.
Please tell me more. This is something I've never heard of.
That's a Polish staple of fundamentalist Catholicism, and the Polish government. That was it.
Hmm.
The ruling party was Catholic fascists, and I'm not just using the word. I'm Polish sci major, so it's basically under the definition.
Wow.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and there were always people like that, even before the Soviet system fell.
Mm.
Okay. Wow. That is good to know. And well, it's good to know also that the that seems to be what, almost fringe at this. You say they kind of do their own thing, right?
I wouldn't say they're French,
Oh, never mind
because
then.
they're just on their own, doing their own thing in some churches that cater to those kind of people. And for a while, that was basically the strain of Catholicism here. So those more progressive churches and priests didn't have as much of a say, and almost the whole hierarchy of the Catholic Church in Poland is some flavors of that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. This is wow. I'm an
That's just
American.
Poland. We were
I don't
always
know. Yeah, I don't know
bad.
any of the history and politics of basically any other country. So this is all fascinating new information to me. Thank you.
which
problem.
this next part of
Luckily,
that from Will is for you, is what's the end game for Catholic fascists?
a theocracy,
Wow.
full on theocracy where they worship the dead pope, the dead Polish pope as a god, basically.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, they basically treat him as the de facto pope, even in non-fascist Catholic circles, because the new one seems to be too progressive for them.
He's a softie. I love what Will said. It's always a theocracy, LOL. Why did I even ask? Yeah. Yeah, those elements exist everywhere, ubiquitous. They just, go under different labels or names, right? That's fascinating.
Definitely. Tyler had asked a question. Are there any topics you wish you could do a full episode on, but they aren't related to Mormonism enough to justify? And I'm like, okay, now Catholic fascism.
A little bit.
I'm like, holy shit. I mean, we can make that relate to Mormonism because, yeah, well,
Because theocracy, right?
theocracy, yeah.
Yeah.
But still, yeah. Well, Shannon wants to do a deep dive into Pride and Prejudice, but that definitely doesn't relate to Mormonism.
Right. I mean, we could make that happen. Absolutely.
They did film a Mormon version of it, which fits with Mormonism, Mr. Collins especially, but the movies itself is pretty shitty. I call it the worst one I've ever seen. There's like 15 different films, I think, but anyway, yeah. What would be a topic? We have talked about some where we're like, I can't make that relate to Mormonism.
Yeah. So that's the problem is like we have our whiteboard, and whenever we have a conversation of like we should do an episode on that, we can't make it relate to Mormonism in any way, then we don't put it down on the whiteboard. So I can't think of it, any of those off the top of my head, but it's almost every week that we have a conversation like that. Of course, on the spot, I can't think of anything. Hey, so I'll keep thinking. V, maybe.
SD.
Ah! Yay!
Well, I had to install the app on my phone, which I hate, but
Oh no,
we made it.
it's working. Yay, we can hear you now. Excellent.
So one thing that I wanted to add, and I know it's way too late now because that part of the conversation has been over for a while, but
Please.
for Shannon, because I am holding you to starting reading Pratchett, you are going to love Brian when you get to Hatful of Sky, because Brian is based on the perpetual student of Roger Zelazny. And he's a bit character, but the bit is the teachers figure out how to get him to pass the final exam that he needs to pass. And I'm not going to tell you how.
Okay, good. Well, I like spoilers, but
I remember that. There's also
it's really simple, and you're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh more because of how simple it is, more than how funny it is. It's one of those. It's the dumbest thing you've ever seen, but you can't stop laughing things.
Isn't that a second appearance of such character? I think there was one before.
I think it's the same character.
It's the same.
Yeah, I think
the same that had
a few times.
sat next to I don't
Prison.
know.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Okay, you will like it.
Excellent. Okay, good. I know when I said I hadn't read anything by Terry Pratchett, boy, V went after me so hard. What? Shannon, you cannot have been. What is wrong with you? Yeah, I'm like, I know. I'm sorry.
I was
Terry Pratchett. Sorry, Terry Pratchett has been writing for as long as I have been alive, which is almost 41 years now. You have zero excuses.
I have none.
I would suggest you could try one of the standalone books that he had, like Nation. Those are amazing, and you probably will love the Dodger book. It is great as well.
I have Good Omens, and I need to sit down and read it.
That one is great too.
I loved this show, the first season anyway. I haven't watched second season yet. I'm like, I don't know how they're going to top this first season. That was really good. Okay, Iris Sark, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just shocked when you said you hadn't read him. I mean, I've read everything he's written. He's just so funny, so funny. His books often I have to stop because I'm laughing so hard. They are really funny. They are really good. Especially like oh my gosh, what's her name? The little witch girl from
Oh,
Tiffany
Tiffany
Aching.
Aching.
yes, Tiffany
Yeah.
Agee. Oh man, I love the Wee Free Men. They're so funny. I think
Oh,
that's
they're
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't
Uh,
honestly don't know why I've never read him.
I have to gush. We had the best translator for that, and they're basically Scottish Pictish coded, and he made them local Highland people coded in our version, and it is glorious.
Going late on the chat in YouTube, so I will say Bryce's penalty for losing the candle war. They want to know. Well, we talked about it before, but we'll say he has to go through an entire episode using only Mormon swear words. And he can't use any others. And if he does, we have to start over, which I'm like, don't you dare slip up more than twice. Because I think it'd be funny to see you slip up. And then maybe going, ha, you did it. Now we got to start over.
Yeah.
Damn it. But then this like, we'll be like recording for 3 days in a row. But
I don't think we have to start the whole episode recording over. Maybe just like that little bit, that line that
That
we
phrase,
say.
yeah.
That phrase, yeah, but yeah. So we will have bloopers at the end as well. So that was your suggestion, JC.
Hey, good
there we go.
suggestion.
Yep.
That one got 67% of the vote. I just sat there laughing. I would go check it like 5 times a day, going, where are we at now? Where are we at now? Where are we at now?
It's so good. It's so good. By the way, hello, Roy. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't have to start the whole episode, just the phrase. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
And I get to say whatever I want. That's the best.
Oh dear. So, and also, JC, now that you're in the chat, we are also taking recommendations of Mormon swears. I'm pretty sure JC is non-Mormon in Utah.
Yes.
So
in Utah.
I'm
Yep.
sure that this person has probably heard quite a few of the Mormon swears come out. So we're I have a document, special document just for this. I would never be able to do that myself. Yeah. I don't know how well I'm gonna do.
We're gonna, and JC, we're gonna do it. Not this episode that comes out this Tuesday because it won't work for that, but it will be the next one, which will be the first few chapters of Approaching Zion of huge niblets. So
that's right.
that'll be fun.
Yeah, and the beginning of that episode, the A segment of that is going to be some Hugh Nibley apologetics, because that's how we're coupling my segment and Shannon's segment on the Niblet episodes. So I believe that is going to test my my constitution with not swearing, going through Nibley apologetics. Surrounded by members and ex-members. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so
that'll be fun.
Yeah,
yep.
that will be lots of fun.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting my
excited.
halo effect. The sun's coming through the window right next to me. That's why I move periodically, because I'm like, oh, it's the halo effect. Shannon's disappearing. Okay.
Shannon is anointed.
Saint Shannon.
Oh my god.
Need a stained glass Shannon.
There we go. Okay. Any other questions? Let's see. Did we cover all the ones we had?
Did we?
I think so.
Ooh.
There's
that's
some
exciting.
simple ones like, okay. Like favorite recipes to make and eat. Which I'm like, at this point, I'm so limited. I have to go low sodium, and that just takes out a lot of things like favorite soup recipes and stuff. But
Mhm.
I did make lentil soup the other day with low salt and just enough sausage to make it so that you had a complete amino acid chain in there. Worked pretty well. So,
Mm.
but yeah, that's difficult.
Mhm. Mhm.
Heart friendly and diabetic friendly are just annoying to have to deal with when it comes to food. And
You're
I'm
gonna
like,
have to start eating a lot more tomatoes
oh my God, I know, right? I was
and
like,
spices and herbs and stuff.
yes,
Definitely.
definitely. I actually got a roast the other day and I just covered it in Mrs. Dash garlic and herbs and then cooked it up in onions and garlic. And that worked out pretty well. But yeah, that's one. It's like, I'm like, I wish I had enough money to fly V out here and then she could just move in and be my cook. I don't
I
like to
would
cook.
totally.
I know.
I love to cook. I love to feed people. My primary love language is touch, but nobody I know is touchy-feely like I am.
Oh
So
my
I made a
God.
conscious decision to move towards acts of service. And because I love to cook, I love to feed people. In my world, food is love. So
There you go. See, if you were here, I'd be like, I'm hugging you all the hugs. Okay. Yes. So definitely.
No, we all need to go to Serbia so you can feed us.
I know.
There we go.
All right.
Yes.
only if
Glassbox
you
trip.
are okay with being 10 kilos fatter when you leave.
Yes.
No, we live
Yes.
once. I mean,
Well, basically, the most expensive part would be the flight here.
Yeah.
Everything else, it would be, I could give you a luxurious stay here on a budget you wouldn't believe. Because the
There you
difference
go.
between the dinar and the dollar is that big.
Mhm.
Awesome. Be like Euro trip.
Definitely.
Yeah, sure, why not? It would give me a chance to show you that not the entirety of Europe has a blue filter on it.
That's right. There we go. There we go.
Uh,
Mark Crispin has asked about our thoughts on Travis Wayne Goodsale's podcast videos. I haven't watched any of those, but I was looking him up here with his 475 books or however the fuck many there are. And I'm like, okay, I need to look more into what he writes and does because he looks like it could be interesting. He's
yeah.
born a member of the church, developed a scripture study instruction manual, published the first philosophy of Mormonism, taught teachers how to teach, tried to correct the errors in the LDS scripture footnotes for the 2009 foreign language editions and all that stuff. Graduated from Ricks College, which is now BYU, Idaho, and the former University of Lethbridge in Alberta, Canada, where he disciplined in biblical studies. And then I believe he's left the church. I'm going through all of his other stuff of his stuff. He studied Egyptology and Assyriology and moral philosophy, and he is an abecedarian, one who studies the alphabet, okay, and a lexicographer, one who writes dictionaries, and a translator. Which is why the LDS Church has been trying so hard to silence and remove me from society. So there it is. He's
Fascinating.
deciphered the Paleo Hebrew alphabet and the ancient Egyptian petroglyphs and discovered they are the source for the Bible stories. So, and he's an Eagle Scout and a patriot of the U.S. Constitution. So, interesting.
Very interesting. Sounds like quite the quirky set of features to go into a person. Yeah, no, I've actually never heard this name before. This is just one of my blinders. So I will look into this person and hopefully I can have a more comprehensive answer later. But yeah, I've just never met this person or never interacted with any of their content. So I'm very curious about this.
It's really, it looks like just from titles of the books that he's published, it gives me a feel of basically he wants to start his own church.
Yeah, well, and anyone who is like calls themselves a patriot of the Constitution is like, I'm just saying, that's some giant red flags, all right?
Yeah.
That never leads to anything good.
Unknown Truths of the Book of Mormon is one. Read History of the Book of Mormon. Or Real History of the Book of Mormon, sorry.
Will's comment is excellent. I call it melted Mormon male brain syndrome. This guy seems like a candidate for that. Excellent. Yeah, that's a real thing. Absolutely.
So yeah, that would be interesting. There's somebody to read along with the huge niplet. Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Oh my God.
We do have a comment also from JC. Thoughts on the first female prophet at Community of Christ? Mixed messages, recent pods in the Brighamite Mormon land. Not only do we have thoughts, that's our next episode, actually. So
Yeah.
we will reserve us spewing our thoughts about the new Community of Christ prophet until that episode, because we have a wonderful interview lined up, and I'm super excited to talk about everything about it, because it's a really fascinating and complicated situation. Yeah, really good question though.
Oh my God. I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it might be Locke.
Yeah. A lot of people thought it was going to be Locke, because Locke it would be returning to precedent of Smith descendants, but as well as, maintaining the precedent of male prophets, male presidents of the Community of Christ. So they broke a whole lot of kind of spoken and unspoken traditions. It's really, really fascinating.
Yeah, he's an interesting person to talk to.
Yeah, very much so. Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad it's a female. So
Yeah, I am as well.
see.
Yep. And after having a preliminary discussion with our interviewee, I am less excited about this pick. I'm excited overall that it is a female pick. That is awesome. I am less enthusiastic about what else this pick is bringing to the table. That is well, I don't know. You know what? I'm going to stop it there, because I have a lot more thoughts. I have complicated thoughts about it.
Spoilers.
I know.
Bryce.
I know. I'll shut up right now.
Well, we look forward to your thoughts on the episode.
Yeah. Perfect.
Next time you fuss at me about spoilers,
You're coming
say,
back to this.
what happened that live show in January? Yeah.
You'll have one time that I gave spoilers to go back to. How dare you, Bryce? Yeah, I get it.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So yeah, these are I don't know, we've got fun things planned. I mean, you nibbly stuff is truly fascinating. I mean, you all heard me talking about it last episode. And so it's just, I don't know. I think Bryce needs to work on his Hugh Nibley voice though.
I have not developed it. I need to.
You really need to.
Yeah, and it has to be distinct from. It can't just sound like Bruce McCranky either.
That's what you sound
It's got to be
yeah.
special. Yeah,
because it's not this, blustery voice. He has this kind of talking voice, and he does this sniff through his nose, kind of like just almost like a tick. It's like almost like a Tourette's tick through his nose. But he talks along about every 4 words. He'll do sort of this quick sniff, like he's clearing his nose out or something. But he has this mellow voice, or had this mellow voice that just kind of flows all over you, and you are almost mesmerized by it. So, yeah.
why he was so popular.
Yep. So, and why people love to go hear him speak, and why they love taking his classes.
Yeah.
And so you have that kind of voice, you got it. So, yeah, he was interesting, man. What's weird to me is that the ward we were in when we first got married is the ward that he lived in, and I don't remember him being there. So he had to have been sick, but he died. We got married in 94. He didn't die till 2005 or 6 or something like that, and so they said he was the gospel doctrine teacher until he got too sick. And I don't recall him being the gospel doctrine teacher even. So I'm like, holy shit, wait. So either that was wrong in this, or he stopped coming because he was too sick, or he went to a different ward or whatever. But yeah, that was kind of weird.
Very interesting. I mean, look, I'm honestly excited to get into this, right? I mean, we said it during the Nibley episode, but I was not excited about it. But now learning how complex this person is, I think this is actually going to be a pretty fun project. And I am determined to not like Hugh Nibley by the end of this. Look, I'm going into it with my predisposed to not like this individual, and I don't think that I'm going to like him by the end of it, but I feel like at least it's going to be more nuanced, so that's at least useful.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to hit us with a bludgeon like McCranky did,
Yeah.
but I think he will still hit us.
Mhm.
Just be like this flowing stream around you that sucks you away without you realizing it. Yeah.
That's a terrifying imagery.
He's a hard one because he's so dense and verbose. It's kind of hard to even understand what he's saying. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It'll be interesting.
Yay.
We'll have, I'm sure there'll be footnotes more than just the scriptures in this too.
Mhm.
unlike McCraig's.
Yeah.
I was like, they're all scriptures. I don't give a shit. I wouldn't go to the scriptures. I went to other footnotes that he did, which were like 5. But everything else was, so I don't know. This will be interesting. I think this is going to make me do more work. Oh,
So
God.
I had an idea of a conversation topic, and it might be fun for a panel to chime in here as well. Shannon, you and I have discussed possibly doing a Sunstone presentation multiple times in the past, and we've had ideas float out, and then we haven't done them, or we had an idea and we're like, yeah, let's not do that. Initially, one thing that we thought about doing is, because Sunstone has so many panels of the why I stay, or people like trying to create spaces within the church that are inclusive. Shannon and I doing a why we left panel, but like at the end of the day, that's kind of what a lot of Sunstone already is like, hey, there's fucked up things in the church, right? So as it presently stands, we don't have kind of a direction that we want to go, but we want to do a Sunstone presentation, and we couldn't do it last year because, well, I was literally signing the papers to buy this house like the day that Sunstone started, so that was not optimal. But in any case, yeah, I don't know, Shannon, you and I have discussed it and thrown some ideas back and forth. How are you feeling right now? What do you think?
Yeah, because I mean, we want to do something that makes us stand out as different, and makes it so that there's a reason for us to come and give that presentation.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, because in the past you've done, like the last one you did was the entheogen stuff,
Yeah.
and that was fascinating. And so we want it to be fascinating from us. I mean, the last one I went to, the Black Menaces were there, and that left a huge impact on me, just listening to them talk, and especially listening to them answer questions very straightforward and very honestly. And for me also was hearing what racist kind of remarks I myself say. So because I never will say I'm not a racist, because I already know it's like ingrained into the DNA of a white person in America, and you have to find ways to root it out. And so that was when I was like, okay, I got to root that out too. And so those kind of things. But I'm like, that's what I want to do if I'm going to get up there and speak, is leave some kind of impact on people. So, ideas.
I think honestly, because by the time we hit Sunstone, we're going to be done with the Book of Mormon. It might actually be fun to do a panel on reading the Book of Mormon with, prominent atheists and, non-Mormons, and getting their take on it. Because I think generally speaking, like, I don't know, scripture studies, I would never go to a scripture study panel or any Sunstone panel about, anything scripture, unless it's something that's really controversial, really, thought-provoking, really off the wall, then I'd go. But aside from that, I would have no reason to go. But, a group of people who, read the Book of Mormon, never having read it before or whatever, and, participating in a panel like that, I mean, I've learned a lot being on that panel. I've learned so much about how outsiders view the Book of Mormon, because it is such an insane and stupid and elementary book. And that has been almost fun in and of itself, just that, so I don't know, that's a potential direction for it, but I don't know. That's one thing that's kind of fun about Sunstone is we can kind of go any direction that we want with it. Yeah, I don't know.
What are people's thoughts?
It would be fun to kind of give a retrospective of what you've learned from reading it again as an atheist. That'd be interesting.
Mm-hmm. And for you, Shannon, having read it 60 plus times, 70, 80, however many times before you started even keeping track of it, right? Now to read it with a totally different lens, right?
Yeah. Because has been interesting. That's why I dread and look forward to the Sundays doing that, because I don't know what I'm going to get in with, and it's like, I mean, the nice thing is I can just be as snarky, sarcastic, and just raging as much as I want, and I don't have to hold back on there, which helps. But yeah, it's God. Yeah, because that's one, it's like, never saw the misogyny, never saw the abuse, never saw the repetition, never saw any of that as a Mormon. Because the last time I read it, I was full TBM. I've got a lock on the Pandora's closet, even though it's starting to bulge at the door at the seams. And so, having all of that just glaring in my face changed everything. And so in some ways it is rather healing, I have to say, to go through and read it again and see it for the piece of shit that it is. But yeah, that is a good thought. Oof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't see, I mean, it's just one of the stupidest books ever. Honestly, it's so hard to understand how anybody could get anything scriptural out of that.
Right.
It's just a mess. I mean, I've never read it before, and I'm like, what in the world? What? This is just what? This is just so stupid. I mean, in the Bible there are many stories and many characters, but this is just a bunch of characters of the same character with the same names over and over.
Yep.
The same things, they do the exact same things over and over, and they're stupid.
It's so funny because Hugh Dibley's like, all the military stuff is exactly spot on, and I'm thinking, it's just the same little action over and over and over. There's nothing different.
Yeah. And all the characters are one-dimensional.
Yeah. And it's just so dumb. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes.
I used to love the Book of Mormon. And then when I was like, I'm pretty much leaving the church, I was like, okay, I'll give the Book of Mormon one last chance. I'll read it. And it wasn't it wasn't like spiritual. And then I saw all these problems, and I kind of stopped when I got to I think I read one or two more chapters. I got to a part in Second Nephi that was really anti-Semitic. And I'm like, I can't believe I didn't notice this before.
Exactly.
But it's because I just believed it. It was like the Jews were the only people on earth who would kill Jesus. It's not like, oh, it just went here. It's like, it says if Jesus went anywhere else, they wouldn't have killed him. And I'm like, that's not just the deicide of Jews killed Jesus. That's like a next level of the Jews killed Jesus. And when I took a history of the Holocaust class, we started talking about anti-Semitism. And that was one of the big things, is the belief that the Jews killed Jesus is a huge thing that led to Christians hating Jews. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't like in the scripture.
Oh no.
Oh no.
No. That's not good. Okay.
Yeah, and they take the racism another step further. To you're like evil to your core because you were a fence sitter. Like, I think that's a totally another level as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, that's kind of been the most fun for me in this read through is just how much we hyper focus on like all of the bigot shit in there, right?
Yeah.
There's so much of it to go around, especially the white supremacy, right? So like now having this opportunity where we are like you and I are on the panel, Shannon, we can be like, no, 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 we're stopping the show because we need to spend 10 minutes talking about how fucked up that passage really was. Like that's
Right.
actually a lot of fun for me is to really kind of hyper analyze it that way.
There was one episode of that where at the end Arn was like, I'm really glad you two are on here because none of that I would have even paid attention to because it does
Yeah.
none of it makes sense. What you did here is, you know, was showing it because we're just going, this is dangerous shit that Mormons are reading over and over and over. And so it gets ingrained in your head because you read it over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, that was another hard thing about reading 3rd Nephi 11 Sunday because I was like, I had this whole thing memorized on my mission. I can actually sit here and quote it word for word still. This is awful. Oh my God. And that's why I was like, yep, God gets Joseph Smith's voice. Yep, that's for sure.
uh That's, I mean, I remember how like have never struggled with memorization. Like I didn't struggle with the scripture mastery and like, you know, leveling out of scripture mastery in seminary and everything. But an entire chapter for real?
Yeah.
No,
There's a lot
thanks.
that I did.
That sounds
Oh,
horrible.
memorizing was always easy for me,
Okay.
and it was easy in music. It was easy in words because
Right.
the words would be in music to me, and so it was super easy. And that was something else I held the record on my mission. You know, best took care of the cars best, had it memorized easiest. So my mission president had us memorize everything. And so I didn't just have the discussions memorized. I didn't just have the scriptures for the discussion memorized. I went whole hog. Like I memorized the entire fucking word of wisdom. I remember, you know, 3rd Nephi 11, all these, it was just, you know, passed it off. And then my mission president up there going, Sister Christy Hansen is better than all you elders, you know, and it's like, yeah, I know. So yeah. Things you do to stand out. It's ridiculous. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. And the whole thing of I am called of God by all this Joseph Smith stuff that we had to do and oh my God. Bruce R. McConkie quotes that we had to have memorized, everything. It was nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Persecutions may rage, mobs
Yay.
may combine. Yes. Anyway, all right, we'll go on. JC in the chat says maybe a panel on the effects of pressure to have kids / eternal families in and out, like Shannon's painful loss plus Bryce no kids minus Ty, or, you know, and then Ty to Emma plus Joseph's family plus lack of polygamy kids, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That could be interesting because it would be from the viewpoint of somebody with children, somebody without, deliberately without.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
yeah, and how much pressure like you experienced as a woman of like this is your role, this is your eternal calling to have kids, and how much that influenced your and your spouse's decisions, you know, as you know, after you got married and all of your early life together choices, and how much you know, me kind of rejecting that, and how much I didn't get that messaging as a man, or did not get it anywhere near as much as a man, right? The procreation is so important. Yeah, I like there's honestly there's a lot of subtopics within that overall large topic. I mean, you know, I mean, there's like 4 or 5 different topics in that, right? But like they're all interrelated, and there's a lot of facets to each of them. But there's kind of a lot that we could do with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost like whiteboard material right there, right?
Yes, it is.
Like yeah, I mean, just families in general, right? But like specifically like the hyper focus on like the big Mormon families and, you know, the decisions that we've made, myself rejecting that, right? And I have to admit, I'm sure that my just general anti-authoritarianism, like my personality being that way, probably influences my decisions to be no kids, like you know, no kids whatsoever ever. But you know, also, you know, there's a lot more that goes into it. So yeah, I think there's a lot to that.
Because I'll tell you, one thing I loved about living in Georgia for 4 years versus Utah was that, oh, Aurora's back. Welcome
Yay.
back. We missed
Yes.
you. We were like,
Yeah,
no,
my
right in the
computer
middle of what you were
died.
saying. But what I loved about it is there were no comments on us having only one child. Nobody commented on that because it was common out there. 1 to 2 children was a common size for families. And I didn't have to justify it. I didn't have to stand there and say, yeah, it's a death risk for me to have children. I already had one and he's dead. You know, all those kind of things. I never had to justify it ever. And so, in fact, our stake president, while we were, I think it was our stake president or somebody in the stake presidency, had 10 children, and they had to justify it to people in Georgia, why they had so fucking many kids. And I'm like, that's cool, because in Utah I always did. So, yeah, that would be an interesting one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Aurora, do you remember when you went out, and you want to finish what you were saying then?
Yeah, I do actually. What I was saying is just like, yeah, the Book of Mormon is just really anti-Semitic. I didn't notice it until my history of the Holocaust class, which actually I would say that class was really important in me leaving. It was at SVU, so it was the teacher was Mormon. Actually, she was the only Mormon who was a history teacher. All the other history teachers were like other faiths, which was kind of funny. I love all of them, they're great. But I remember one time we were talking about how Mormons did in Nazi Germany, which isn't great, but there was this one guy with his friends who opposed,
The
and the
16-year-old?
loves to prop him up. And then when I glanced at the book, the Saints volume that covers it, they don't mention that his bishop or stake or branch president was a Nazi, like wore his Nazi uniform to church. They're just like, look at this guy, this Mormon teenager who opposed Hitler, and they ignore everything else. And you're like, okay, fine. But she asked, like, so I because of that class, I noticed the anti-Semitism in the Book of Mormon, but she asked, like, who's a leader that you would just follow whatever they say? And she just made us think about it. And I didn't necessarily have an answer, but she's like, don't give your morality away to anyone else. Like, choose for yourself what you're gonna do. Like,
Yeah.
and then, because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And then I probably distanced myself from listening to what the church leaders said, because like I have to make up my own mind if something's right or wrong. So yeah. Anyway, she's still Mormon, but I do quite respect her.
That's what them liberal universities are doing, driving our kids away from God. That's here you are, a living, breathing example, Aurora.
There you go. I know BYU was cleaning out the philosophy department when I started there in mid 80s. They were too many philosophy teachers were making the students basically question their testimonies, the way they put it, and leading them out of the church. And it was more like they were being told to think. And that's really what the problem was. There's something I thought of while you're saying that. Give me a second.
Roy comments, Moroni and the Swastika is well worth reading. Is that one you've read, Aurora? Oh, yeah.
No, it's not one I read. We more focused on like just the basics of the Holocaust, but I really want to read that book, like a lot. It's
I have that
on
book.
my list. It just hasn't gotten a hold of it yet.
Yeah, it is a chilling book. Honestly, it was horrifying to read. Absolutely evil. Yes, I highly recommend that book as well. Yep.
That's something. Oh, I remember now. Because when I was talking about Hugh Nibley, and he was fussing about what BYU and Mormonism was doing, like during Vietnam and everything else, and stuff with Nixon and Watergate, and how rather than look at things clearly and say, "Oh shit, we were wrong," they doubled down on their wrongness to prove that they were right or something or whatever, and that's was something he didn't like about it and was quite vocal about it. But it's like that's Mormonism in a nutshell. No one wants to admit it. Well, it's a cult in a nutshell, basically. No one wants to admit that the emperor has no clothes. So they're going to double down on the fact that, oh, he's got lovely clothes. And no matter how foolish it makes them look. And so that's why I think it's less of the big events making the majority of people leave and more of like the side effects of something else, like side effects of COVID, like we were talking about with Caught earlier, is more and more people left church because, in all churches, because you're not there, you're not getting brainwashed. You can look at it and say, yeah, Amber's actually naked. And I feel like an idiot, but it's okay. Nobody's looking at me as I leave.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's a
'cause
big part of it. Yeah.
that's a huge part of it. You know, and for me, like when I very first left, it was really hard when people would ask me why to say why, because then you're having to admit I fell for this garbage. You know, and it's much easier for me to give myself credit for leaving, you know, and not denigrate myself for staying as long as I did. You know, it's more of, okay, well, once I knew better, I did better. You know, the Maya Angelou quote. Maya Angelou, we named our daughter after her, by the way, because she was amazing. But side note. Anyway, so that's, yeah. That's a tough one because I think the shame issue works both ways. Because you feel so much shame towards yourself for believing this stuff that it makes you stay, which I think is what happens when you get things like the Nazis in Germany, you know, German students then, or German Mormons then, or during Watergate, during Vietnam, during all of those. And so they double down because of the shame inside.
Well, and Will's comment also actually kind of contributes to this idea. He said one panel idea for a panel at Sunstone could be something like the cult cycle playing on the pride cycle. You could talk about how early Mormon converts got duped and how modern people can recognize the cycle. And I think that's a really interesting kind of thought-provoking way to look at it too. And I like immediately what comes to mind is just reading select passages from the Ezra Booth letters. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, this guy was somebody who converted to the church, to Joseph Church, and then just became slowly disenchanted. He was super motivated, super into the church, but then numerous events kind of transpired that caused him to start questioning it. And then he went on the mission trip with the church out to Missouri and became completely disenchanted, and then wrote a series of nine expose letters or 7 expose letters. And they're just filled with a ton of really good observations about the psychology. They're talking about how individuals who are normally intelligent, educated individuals, when their favorite fancy comes into the point of conversation, then they will, excuse any of the flaws into being unknowable mysteries. And it's he has some really good observations. So that might be a really fun way to talk about those reflections of the way that people kind of talk about the church after leaving it now, similar to how people like Ezra Booth felt when they left the church in its earliest days, and just showing those similarities. I think, yeah, that's a fun idea. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting good ideas.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. And then JC also comments Shannon's ability to memorize and reflections on the dictation of the Book of Mormon by Joseph, and his ability to use Methodist preaching, laying down heads. William Davis is a great book. I have not read that book yet. I.e., of course, Joe Smith could have done it. Yeah, right. Yeah, just naturally, he was just talking out his ass. And somebody was writing it down.
I got asked that once. They're like, you can't tell me that somebody as uneducated as Joseph Smith could write all that down, make up this whole thing. I'm like, yeah, I can. And he's like, I can sit down and write this very quickly. But he also had 4 years, not 3 months to do it. But I'm like, oh my God, you idiot.
Yeah, the Hugh Nibley challenge.
Yep.
Like, have you guys heard of that?
Yep. Write a book that is as complicated as the Book of Mormon in as short a time as the Book of Mormon. Yeah.
Oh my God, so easy. You
has all this Hebrew
argue
in it as well.
Throw in Isaiah, and then have a bunch of wars where they're doing the exact same thing over and over and over. Nobody has to figure out why suddenly they have 10,000 people that they can go kill again. And then, a couple chapters later, they have another 10,000 people each that they can go kill again. Yeah, all that stuff.
And everybody's got the same name.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just add
Pick out like
IHOP to
5 or
it.
6 names, and there you go.
Yep.
Yep.
That all sound very similar to each other as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to put some
You know.
prefixes or suffixes on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a different guy.
Yeah. We don't know how many Nephis it's been, so we'll just say Nephi. Yeah.
Or add
Nephi
ha.
227. Yeah.
Ha is actually junior in Reformed Egyptian, Nephi Ha.
Yes. We'll just make it all up. Yeah.
Yeah. Why
Oh
not?
my God.
We're playing in
Just
the
wait
LARP
till
space.
Ether.
Why not?
Oh God.
Oh my God. Ether is going to be so much fun. Honestly, I'm excited. Ether and the Pearl of Great Price. Talking Book of Abraham on that panel. Holy shit. We are going to have so much fun with Aaron and, alien god from the planet nearest the star Kolob. Oh, I can't wait. Especially because it's going to be the very end of the project is going through like the Pearl of Great Price. And I cannot wait to be done with the project overall. And that's just going to feel good.
Well, and that's also when some of those Bible panelists need to be on.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
that's a good idea.
That's really when you definitely need to be on. Some of the Bible panelists need to be on. I mean, that's a whole different ballgame.
Oh yeah. I cannot wait to hear Tomer reading the Book of Abraham. He's gonna laugh so hard. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Anyway, that's in the near future. We'll leave that to Fantasyland for now. Will,
writing all
look,
these
he
down.
named
You know
the
what?
book Ether. Yeah.
We need to make sure we write all these down. Oh my God.
I'll in post when I'm pulling the audio from this, I'll write it and I'll put it in a separate document before posting it up. So yep, absolutely.
Yes, because otherwise I know I will forget.
Will, I wish that your voice was working right now so you could explain the comment that you just made in the private chat. I cannot make sense of that quite.
Sorry.
Algorithm or
I was just talking to somebody about this. So I read, let me get the book.
Okay, I think it's because the internet is
I should start by talking a little bit about melted Mormon male brain. I think I have it, and I made it up, and whatever it means to you, that's what it means. But there's a lot of people out there that it's you just have to admit that the male experience in the church is different than the female experience in the church. Very much. What I'm experiencing, I recognize in other people online. And I found a guy. I talked to the guy. He's a great guy. But we're all a little weird. Okay. There's this book. It's called I know the church is true, but the church is crossed out. And it's a book about all of his DMT and LSD trips. But he's got the melted Mormon brain that he grew up with, right? And so it's, the brain's making all sense of it, right? But as I was reading it, afterwards I called him up because it's like a self-published book, right? And I was talking to him about how the book of Ether, because he mentions it in there, the book of Ether is just Joseph Smith's second autobiography, because his autobiography is in First Nephi, right? Which is his family. He's Nephi, his older brother, and his dad is Lehi and whatever. But Ether is the second version of that. He's the brother of Jared. And like the experience, what he's talking about is that he lived in a time when like the Tower of Babel was falling, because the languages were confounded. If you put your head in Joseph Smith, and it's like, this church is saying that this is the truth, and this church is saying this is the truth, and then Joseph Smith is just like, well, it's, the languages are being confounded, right? And so like he rewrote himself into the story and said, like, we're gonna make these little tight ships, like little families, and we're gonna have our own little Noah's Ark story. So like he combined the Tower of Babel and the Noah's Ark story. Even the time that they spent on the boat is the same as Noah's Ark, and it's all made up. Like that's the point. But like when I was just chatting about it with this guy, I was like, this like the fact that the word ether back then, that was what I don't want to call them like scientists, but like whatever, the alchemists or whatever, they're like, there's some like mystical power that like runs through the whole universe, and it's called the ether and whatever. And so like, I mean, to me, this isn't like smoking gun proof that the Book of Mormon was made up. Like he named it ether. Like It's just, you know, if we wrote it today, it would be called the Book of Quantum, or the Book of Algorithm, or some magic, whatever's mystical in the simulation book, or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever's like at the edge of the zeitgeist. We
The
picked it
book
out
of hard
of a story.
solipsism.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I
And
dig
then
it.
and that's just what he did. And then
Like chloroform imprint.
Yes,
yeah,
very much.
he sucked at it. That's the thing. Is he was very boring. But because of the origin story, it drew people in, which is why I brought up that cult cycle idea, Bryce, because it's like if we're you know, if the history of mankind is that like language grows and expands, and there's a lot more content today that people listen to, and there's floods of it with AI generated content. How does one navigate, you know, the cult cycle? Because, you know, like I feel like there's a certain, I may be on like the very far edge of the this ex-Mormon group. There's like the intellectuals, they all went out first, you know, and then there's like the more like there's a bigger group leaving now, but they're a little less skeptical, and so it'd be interesting to hear your take of just to kind of like put a framework on it to help people not make the same mistakes.
Yes.
I like that. That's really interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. Sorry to make you talk. I didn't mean to put you on the spot
No,
there.
it's okay.
But I just wanted further clarification. Now, yes, I totally get it. Makes sense. I like it. Okay. Awesome. Yes.
Oh, good.
Wow. Okay.
No, we got good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I love public speaking, so it's something I'm like, I just really want to do this. Yeah. Last year we were like, we got to do this, and then we ended up with Shannon in 4 ER visits and 42 times needing one of those wristbands, and it's like, well, shit. Okay. So hopefully this year won't be so bad.
Yeah. Was that the full count? 42? 42 hospital
I
bracelets?
had 36 in the bowl, but I didn't start keeping them until like March or April. April is when I started keeping them. And so I counted back on all the other visits, the ER, and because there were 2 ER visits in there, and there was, you know, stuff like that. And I was like, yep, 42, meaning of life. Okay, good times. I have 2 so far this year.
That's, well, that puts you ahead of your count from last year, so that's not good.
I had none
At
in
least for
January
time wise.
last year.
Exactly. You're right. So that's not going. Well, let's just, you know, let's just keep it to like the single digits per month. That's going to
Let's
put
hope so.
you in better space than last year, right?
I know for sure of at least 2 that will be there for next month.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Good times.
Good times. Good times. This year will be better than last year.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so. Putting out the vibes, putting out the good vibes. It's gonna be better.
Okay, we have good ideas. Good ideas for these.
Absolutely.
Spark something interesting. Yeah.
So we have about just 15 minutes left on this, and because we have a group of our patrons here, this is something, Shannon, I did not discuss with you ahead of time, but I would like to throw towards our panel here. Patreon is kind of a place where we can put all sorts of things, not just show things, but little tidbits that our listeners might want. Like Shannon, you've posted up pictures through last year, pictures like when listeners were sending gift packages after your hospital stays, and so like we can share other stuff there, and I've had some ideas of things that we could also do this year for just our super special awesome patrons who support the show. Patreon.com/GuysBlockPod. Thank you all so much, panelists. And Shannon, I know that you and I have discussed kind of loosely ideas throughout, the past few months of things that we want to do on a Patreon feed, but we also have our patrons here that we could ask directly. Are there any things that you would like us to do that are not necessarily like Mormon stuff or like specifically show stuff, but things that are, maybe just, not those things that you patrons would like to see special posts about. There's little extra gifts just for our supporters. I put out into the ether, one might say.
Yes. Not to put any of you on the spot or anything.
I know, right? Of course. I
You didn't know you
give
had to do
anyone
homework
precursors
before
for
this.
this. Of course. So one thing that had come to mind for me was this is something that was kind of fun. Shannon all the time references the song Another Brick in the Wall because it's such a good song and it applies so broadly to Mormonism in general. And as a coincidence has it, that was the first song I ever played on the drums when I got my first kit. When I was 18, it was my graduating high school gift from me to me, and that was the very first song I played when I got the kit set up. So I thought it would be fun to shoot a video of playing that song just because it's just such an iconic song for the podcast, and it's such a good song for Mormon stuff in general. Just post up a drum cam video.
Yeah,
So
do
that
it.
was that was one like kind of fun idea that's not it's not related to the show directly, but it's something we talk about on the show all the time, and it's just ancillary related. Could be fun.
Yeah, do it.
So that's one idea. Shannon, now I'm putting you on the spot instead of our patrons on the spot. What's something that you might want to throw up on the feed?
That's a good question.
You sent me pictures of a puzzle that you were doing. It looked like a monstrous puzzle because it was all the same color and it was just text on a blank background. That looked horrifying.
Which one was that one? The Shakespeare insults? Was that the
Yeah,
one?
the Shakespeare one, yeah.
Yeah, that took me less than 24 hours. Your idea of a monster puzzle and my idea of a monster puzzle are two completely different things.
That's fair. Yeah, fair.
The hardest puzzle I've ever done was all one color. It was gray. And the entire thing was gray. 785 pieces. I'm actually
Why do people do this to themselves? I don't understand. Why?
You do realize it is one way to offset Alzheimer's, keeps your brain active, all
Really?
that stuff. Yep.
Huh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And that is one reason for doing it. I will listen to an Audible book and work on that. I actually ended up because my big puzzle table is downstairs because that's the only room big enough that it's not in the way. But I can't always make it down the stairs because my knees aren't always happy with me. But I finally set up the card table in my office because I have enough room for it here. So I have two puzzles at this point going. And so the big ones, the really big ones that are like 2,000, 2,500 pieces, or else just a really big shaped one are on the big table downstairs. So I don't know if anyone would find that interesting. I think they're interesting and I just do them because I love them. But yeah, I mean, it's a fantasy one I'm working on right now that was given to me for Christmas, and it's got little fantasy depictions and books and dragons and all this stuff, and it's just really big. But yeah, I mean, there's some 3,000 and 5,000 piece ones I really want to do, but I'm not sure if I'll ever get them.
Ew. Nasty.
There's
Why?
a
That's
3,000
too many
piece
pieces.
one of Guernica by Pablo Picasso. I
Oh.
want that. I mean, it's easy to find a 1,000 and 2,000. I want the 3,000. Some friends of mine, their whole family, it took them a year and 13 days to put it together. And I'm like, I want that
My
puzzle.
God.
I so want that puzzle.
Why do people do that? Oh, that's horrifying. A year to put a one puzzle together?
Bryce,
I
why did
I
you
can't
do
get my brain
10
there.
years on the history of Joseph Smith?
Yeah, all right. You know what? Because there's always another little facet, another little interesting tidbit, another new thing to learn. A puzzle doesn't have that.
Yes, it does. Because you got different kinds. I've got 3D puzzles that build into things. The first one I ever got was the new Schwanstein Castle. And that's like 800 pieces or something like that. That was the first one I ever put together. And those are hella fun. So fun. I have one of R2-D2 that has a sound box that goes in his foot so you can play the R2-D2 sounds. I have one that is a grandfather clock with a real working clock on it. I love puzzles. I mean, our Harry Potter room, the room under the stairs, that's all that's in there. It's puzzles. There's a few games, but mostly it's just puzzles. Puzzles and Legos. Legos I'm holding on to till my grandson's old enough to play with them.
There you go.
And then he gets them. Yeah.
Here's something that might be awesome, contextual to this conversation as well. Shannon, how about book reviews of like a Terry Pratchett, your first Terry Pratchett novel? Put up a book review on the Patreon feed.
Well, there we go. That might work.
Hey, right?
You probably don't want Jaff book reviews now.
I mean, why not?
That's a little too niche for everybody. No, I could do some fun.
I mean, if you want to do related book reviews, you can do the Mormon Steampunk collection of
Yes.
stories.
I need to do those.
That I've been trying to get people to get into because it's really fun and I want to talk to you all about them, but I don't want to spoil anything because I want you to read it unvarnished by my opinion of it all. And also, my birthday is on February 10th, and if we're speaking of what kind of extra content we would like, I want Bryce to watch Bahubali, and I want him filmed while he watches it, and the best reaction gifs uploaded to John.
That's a two-parter Bollywood flick that, I mean,
it's 6 hours or something.
It is so long, hella long. And V and I watched it together, and she got me to, she's like, you have to, and this just tells you everything to know, because there's this battle scene where they pull this palm tree down, and all the guys get in it, and they're trebucheted into the castle.
Oh yes, I've seen this scene, this specific scene. You sent it to me,
and he's like, "It's a video game."
But the entire movie is like that.
Yes, it is.
The entire movie is like, well, both of them.
Climbing out, carrying the dick rock. Yep.
Yes.
Oh God, yes. Yeah, we need to do that. Okay, so for your birthday. All right, Bryce.
All right, that sounds like a fun one. V, are you gonna watch it with us, or are we gonna? Oh, you're muted now. I can't hear you.
Oh God, we lost.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Can anybody else hear her? No. Okay. Of course. Oh. I think we heard you for just a second, V.
Hey, can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
I think my internet is probably not the best here from home. If you want to do a watch party, I will absolutely do it, because I watch that movie like 2 or 3 times a year anyway. And I haven't watched it in 2004, so.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, there we go. We'll be in touch. We'll make that happen. That sounds
I
like
gotta
fun.
say it is a pretty great epic story.
It is
epic in the literary sense.
Yeah,
excellent.
It is a great introduction to Bollywood. It really is.
Yeah, and I mean I've never seen any Bollywood before, so this is, I mean, well.
So we're gonna set your standards high.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's starting at really high class. I like it. Okay.
Oh my God, yes. Oh dear, very fun stuff.
Awesome.
Roy in the chats on YouTube says that puzzles sound like self-induced torture, but yet listening to Shannon makes me want to go give one a try. And I'm like, that's the point. Yep.
There we go.
I mean, I know not everybody gets into it. My dad loves puzzles, but he won't do 3D puzzles, and he won't do my all one color one. He also won't do the one that's the same picture on both sides of the puzzle. And so, but he's also his brain, if he's the only one doing the puzzle, he will start it at the top and just go down like that. There's like 2-inch layers all the way down. Everybody else does the outside and just whatever parts. And so he just puts up with that when everybody else is helping him. But, everybody has their own way of doing them.
Do you have any one of those that have no edges?
No, and I want to try that. I also saw one that's
those
clear
look
glass.
Awesome.
Oh my God. And then there's also, what was one? There's one I want so badly that is the color spectrum, and every single piece is a different tint. I want that one. It's like 5,000 pieces. I want that one.
That sounds awesome.
I mean, my daughter, when she was little, I started her early with ones that were, the puzzle pieces were like this big. You did it on the floor and then you could dance on it or whatever. I'm like, you're learning puzzles because you're my daughter. And so, which
I
do I
told
love more, puzzles or dragons? That's a good
Puzzles of
question.
Dragons.
I have
There
more
we go.
puzzles of dragons than I do of anything else. I have like 7 of the new Schwanstein Castle because everybody knows I like that one. And that is one of my biggest ones. The 2,500 piece one is pretty hard. It's especially because it's like the castle itself is like here in the middle, like this much of it. Everything else is the mountain and all the greenery around it. And so it's I save the castle part for last and do everything else first because that's harder. But I even have a dowdle puzzle of the new Schwanstein Castle with about 47 dragons put in there, which is kind of cool. But there are something like 15 different dragon puzzles downstairs. Several wooden ones. Though the wooden ones I like too because there's some companies that will make them where the puzzle piece itself is like the shape of an animal. And so those are fun. Um, I like those, but I like shaped puzzles. The very first shaped puzzle I had was a dragon one, and there's several of those. Anyway, so I like puzzles. Anything that makes my brain think like that.
Shannon, while Bryce is coming back,
Lost him.
you gonna do anything special for the Year of the Dragon?
Oh,
Chinese
God.
New Year?
That is a good question. That is a very good question. I need to. I forgot that that's what it was this year. I saw it and then I promptly forgot 15 minutes later. Surprisingly.
We'll think of something.
Yeah, we need to think of something. That is a very good idea. I used to have some Chinese dragons that I could hang up. I had one that was about 6 foot long thing that I could hang up, and it got torn, and I was really upset. It's one of those tissue paper ones, so I need to get some more of those. Hang them all over my house. Oh,
Yeah,
good
that would be
question.
a good way to celebrate.
I know. Oh God, yeah. I got my mom's doll cabinet, and dragons are now in it, and it looks really super cool. It's nice too because they were kind of spreading around the house, which I didn't want to do. I wanted to keep it from being the entire house being a dragon house because I mean I'm not the only person who lives here, so it's pretty. It looks so much better now to have them all in one room now, so that's good. All right, Bryce, what happened to
Yeah.
you?
What do you mean?
You disappeared for a bit.
I had to go check on something.
Okay.
We have a currently ill cat right now who is uh undergoing some medicinal remedy that is causing him to pee all over the floors. But it's good because he's no longer blocked up, which means he's not going to be dying within the next 24 to 48 hours. So it's okay. We can follow him around and clean up after him. That's just fine.
Rather do
But
that.
If it
yep,
keeps them
he's
alive, you'll do that.
yes, exactly. Yep.
We had one that happened to him, and he came so close to death, but that we got him unplugged. He now has no parts down there, but that's all right. He doesn't care.
Mhm.
It means he can pee, and that's
Yep.
all he cares about. So yeah, it's
Yep.
that's so scary, and you can't tell what's wrong with him. You just see that they get very sullen and upset, and they want to hide.
Mm-hmm.
God, it was awful. I'm so
And
glad we
it's
took it
really
out of the
hard.
room.
It's really hard with this cat because we named him Herbie the Love Bug because he's just the loveliest cat. He's everybody's best friend, so he's even harder to tell if something is wrong because he doesn't show his feelings, his how he's feeling. So it was one of those situations that we were really glad that we noticed that he was just spending too much time in the cat box because he wasn't acting abnormal aside from spending too long in the cat box. And we're like, something's weird. Let's go take him in. And they're like, yeah, it's a good thing you brought him in today because tomorrow might have been too late. Like, oh, geez. All right. Okay. Yeah. So it has not been a good 24 hours for us.
Or
Here we
be.
are.
My vet is
Yep.
she's a really really good friend of mine too. She specializes in cats, and she said that cats are aliens. And ever since she said that, I see it. They are aliens. They are like no other creature. They think differently. It's weird. It was
Mhm.
nice knowing them, It's nice to have
Yeah.
them as friends. And as kids.
Absolutely.
We did grow up in the time when Disney put out the movie The Cat from Outer Space.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh dear. Yes, we also are using urinary health formula food. Yes, we are using that as well.
Yeah.
Yep. At least
That's
for
what
at
Oliver
least
eats.
yep.
Mhm.
Yep. At least until this is resolved. And if it continues to not be resolved once we switch him back, then he will go to that diet permanently. And that's okay. It's a little bit of a pain, but whatever.
That's
It's okay.
expensive,
As long as
but
he stays healthy. That's what really matters.
What you do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because those are your children. Yep.
yes,
That's right.
definitely.
They
They are my
our
kids. I
babies.
never had any kids. I
Yeah.
I couldn't have kids. So my dogs and cats have always been my kids. And I call them my kids, and I have to stop myself sometimes when I'm talking to people about my pets, and because I'll call them my kids, and I'm like, I mean my pets. They're my kids, I
Yeah. You're fur babies.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, if you had pet goats, that would not be a problem.
There you go. There you go. There you go. How many cat people do we have here on this panel? We got Bryce, we got Irish Sark, we got Julie, we've got Cot, we've got V. Do you, Aurora? I don't either.
I don't have any. I'm quite allergic to cats, so I try to stay away from them. I did date someone for a while that his family had a lot of cats, so whenever we visited them, we would try to keep me away from the cats, but like this one room was like kind of the cat's domain, and I struggled to breathe in there, so that wasn't fun. But I do like cats. Like I'll pet them and then regret it later. So, you know.
I feel so sorry for you. I really do. That's so, yeah. But I have a lot of dogs too. Um, Jackson Galaxy, he's like the cat guy that used to be on Animal Planet. He's hilarious. But he had some merch that says, I'm bipedal, which means I like cats and dogs equally. And I thought that was so funny. I've got a shirt. I went ahead and bought a shirt like that. So
Excellent.
yeah.
I like that. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are over our regular 2-hour stream, and that's usually where we kind of cut these things off. So if you are a patron of the show over at patreon.com/glassboxpod, you can get access to this video just like everybody on YouTube has had access to, but you also get an upload of the high quality audio soon after this, whenever I'm able to remember that I need to do that, and post it up later. But of course, those are the folks that support the show financially, and it is due to them, and some of whom happen to be on this panel today, that we are able to do these live shows. We're able to do the podcast, and we just really do appreciate our patrons and coming and hanging out with us, spending some time with us. To two of our patrons who have never been able to come to our live shows, but who were able to show up for this one. We were so excited to have you here,
Yes.
both Kot and friend from Serbia. We are so delighted to have the two of you on the panel today. But I think that is going to
thank you.
do it for us today. Anyone have just a closing thought, closing remark they want to throw in before we wrap up the show?
It's so much fun to do this. I've been looking forward to this ever since you announced this. Yes, I gotta wake up really early on Saturday, but I'll do it.
I think what we'll do is trade them off. Like, is still do the Monday night for the next one, and then the next one will be a Saturday morning. And we also have said we're going to do those every 2 months instead of every 3.
Yeah.
Because that should make it
Yay.
easier.
Yeah.
So.
Easier to track, easier to remember, because it's always the situation of like, oh shit, we have a live show, don't we? Wait, when was the last one we did? Wait, when are we scheduled for? When are we? No, now it's just like, did we do
Odd
one this
number
month?
months.
Yes. Then it's not. We're not doing one the next month, right? It's
Right.
just every other month. So much easier that way. So
Yeah.
hopefully that'll make it a little bit more consistent. And we're trying to aim it for somewhere around the 27th of each month, because it's just
That's
such a
my
great number, right? So yeah, we're switching up the schedule a little bit, hopefully increasing access to these live hangouts.
That's good.
Awesome. Well, to everyone in the chat as well, thank you so much for tuning in and spending a bit of time with us, and to all the panelists as well, and to all of our patrons and all of our listeners in general. We love each and every one of you. Thank you very much for joining us. And
Yes.
well, take care of yourselves. Have a
I
good
feel
one.
like I shouldn't say good night, everyone. So maybe good afternoon, good evening, and good night. There we go.
Good night.
See you, everybody.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
Yes.
Okay, and the stream is ended.